Hey man, we're gonna go shoot some fireworks. You want in? I'm playing Dyson Sphere Program. It's fun. Do you want to play? No, I promised them that I was gonna come hang out. I mean, you can come too. The game's gonna be there when we get back. I promise. Progress cannot be stopped. We must build. Now hold on, what do you mean we? Not again. Not again.
You know, you'd think that one of these days I would learn my lesson. Like, I should probably stop buying and launching these factory simulator games, because next thing I know, it's 3 a.m., I've forgotten to eat, and I have work in the morning. Oh god. Dyson Sphere Program is a game that's been on my radar ever since it was announced. In fact, the developer came into the incremental game subreddit that I unfortunately spend a lot of time in as I try to find the next time killer, and ever since then I knew that this is a game that I would have to play eventually. Now, since the Steam summer sale happened and I have a weak will, Dyson Sphere Program was on sale and I found it in my cart and suddenly in my library. At the time of recording, I've played on 2 different days, and over those 2 days I've played a little under 18 hours, and at least 12 of those were on the same day. Oh god. Ever since Factorio threatened to steal my life, I can't help but dive headfirst into every single one of these games that looks even a little bit promising. So far, I've enjoyed every single one of them that I've played, but only a few of them, I think, can stand at the very tip top of the tower. Factorio, of course, is right up there with the greatest, and Satisfactory stands right alongside it as something that's different but the same. And now we have Dyson Sphere Program, which in my opinion gets pretty close to the top of that tower, but isn't quite there yet. Of course, that's not going to stop me from sinking another 10 or 20 or maybe even 100 hours into this game after I've finished recording this video, and that doesn't stop it from improving because it's still currently in early access and probably has a lot more in store for us unfortunate souls. Now, if you've played Factorio or Satisfactory, then you probably know what to expect, but in case you haven't, let me give you a quick primer. You build things, you automate as much as possible, you do research with all of your automated materials, and you constantly expand your factory and do reaches unknown, where the goal in Factorio is to launch a rocket so you can get back home. The goal in Dyson Sphere Program is to build a Dyson Sphere. I'm not going to bother explaining what a Dyson Sphere is in this video, but it's a pretty cool concept. If you want to take a look at it, I'm sure there's plenty of other sources. But my point is, your main goal in this game is to eventually build a Dyson Sphere so the entire consciousness of humanity can continue to thrive in its virtual reality. When you start your first game, you'll immediately notice what sets this game apart from some of the other automation games out there, where games like Factorio and Satisfactory have you planted pretty firmly on one planet with no ability to go outside of those bounds. Dyson Sphere Program makes it a point from the get-go that the planet that you're about to land on is not the only planet that you're going to be exploiting. So far, right now, it seems like every single game starts off the same. You end up in a solar system with 3 planets, and you land on an Earth-like moon of a gas giant. There's 2 other planets in this solar system that you can get to, but first you have to figure out how to leave your own planet. You've got nothing here but your little robot and all of the resources that this planet has to offer. So you start mining, you start researching, and eventually the planet is absolutely covered in all of your creations, conveyor belts going every which way, assemblers here and there trying to make the things that you want them to make so you can make little research cubes to pass into your research station so you can research the next piece of technology to get you off of this planet, perhaps even out of the solar system, and building your Dyson Sphere. You start from ground zero and you work your way up to an intergalactic powerhouse, and it's so freaking cool. You are actually building on the surface of a spherical planet. And it truly is spherical. And the fact that these planets are spherical means that building on them comes with a slightly different challenge than what you would expect from Satisfactory or Factorio, for example. These games tend to operate best when you work off of a grid, and Dyson Sphere Program is no exception. When you place buildings down, you're going to be placing them on a grid. You can hold shift to stop snapping to the grid so you can fine-tune your placements and your rotations, but for the most part, you're going to be trying to build against this grid so things can can come out as neatly as possible. But those of you who know about the geometry of a sphere know that you can't have a perfect grid on a sphere. And even though these are planets, they're not so large that you can't travel around them. So they're actually going to be relatively small compared to what our Earth is. I'm sure that was a choice made for gameplay reasons, because that means that you can't just stay on the same planet and exploit it forever. You're going to have to go out and adventure to other stars, to other planets, to get all of the resources that you're going to need to create your final goal. But because these spheres are so small, the building grids are really impacted. You'll find that it gets really annoying to build close to the north or the south poles, just because the grids kind of converge at those points and get narrower and harder to line up. Whereas if you build along the equator, everything is going to line up very smoothly and almost like you're on a very flat surface. So while you do have this entire planet to build on, you're probably not going to get very much done if you build closer to the poles. Plus, these planets have limited amounts of resources, so what you're going to find you have to do is, once you research the technology to be able to fly off the planet and go to another planet, you're going to be looking for the next set of resources in the next planet to exploit. You take a bunch of stuff that you found on this planet to the next planet, and then steal all of its resources, and then continue until your project is done. And of course, this is an automation game, so that means you're not going to have to ferry your newfound titanium back and forth forever. Eventually, you're going to research some technology that will allow you to create an interstellar logistics network that can carry large amounts of resources from one planet to the next. Sure, it might require an abnormally large amount of power, but it means that you're not going to have to do that on your own, which means that you can expand your production even more. You have literally okay, maybe not literally, but you have your entire game universe to play with. First, you're stuck on your planet, then you're stuck in your solar system, and then eventually, you're going to be moving to new stars. I personally haven't gotten there yet, but I'm looking forward to seeing what I can find. I've been having an incredible amount of fun with Dyson Sphere Program, far more than I ever expected. I was supposed to be writing a script this week for one of my bigger videos, but I bought this game instead, and now I am making this video. Whoops. But as much fun as I'm having with it, and as much fun as I'm going to continue to have with it, there are a couple things that bother me. For one, the control system feels a little bit rough. I mean, you get used to it after a while, but even after 20 hours, I'm still finding myself flailing with the hotkeys and the controls, just because they're not super intuitive. I think Factorio has the intuitive controls down perfectly for these types of games. But there's just something a little odd about the way Dyson Sphere Program does it. You eventually get used to it and things can move pretty quickly, but at the same time, it can be a lot better. But more gameplay-wise, I'm a little disappointed by how dead this universe seems. You land on this beautiful, Earth-like planet full of trees and plants and grass and oceans. You travel across the stars to lava planets, ice giants, dry desert planets, but no matter where you go, there's no opposition. I don't think you necessarily need an opposing force whenever you're playing an automation game, because most of the fun in these games is just in expanding your factory and building it as big as possible to achieve your goals. But I find that if there's nothing to push back against your expansion, if there's nothing to fight against as you're trying to push forward, then it probably gets a little bit easier to burn out. Factorio has the ever-present threat of biters just breathing down your neck at all times. Satisfactory has wildlife on the planet that you are trying to expand on. Not only that, it has a bunch of unfriendly terrain and unfriendly flora and fauna that just get in your way and try to kill you, and probably succeed many times. But unfortunately, Dyson Sphere Project doesn't have any of that. You have all of these planets, you have all of this exploration, but other than different kinds of resources, there's not really anything to find. There's not anything to push against. There's nothing pushing back at you, so you're just free to do whatever you want. Like I said, I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, at least not for everybody, but personally, I wish there was a little more. Something to fight against, something to spend my research technology against, to, get better at fighting. you know, I think it might be a missed opportunity. Probably a lot of challenges regarding that though, especially with all of these planets. But in a system like this, and in a game of this scale, I would love to see what they come up with. I have no idea what's on their roadmap or if anything like this is even planned, and there's probably plenty of you in the audience that would really like this game to never have any of those opposing forces. But hey, that's why you can customize games. Like even Factorio allows you to turn off all of the biters. Anyway, that's gonna be it for this video. This is a short one. I hope you enjoyed it. I've spent all weekend on this video game, but since I did a video like this on Learning Factory, which is kind of a similar game, I figured it was a good idea to do a quick video about this as well. Something to tide you over while you're waiting on my next big project. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. An extra big thanks goes out to all of my patrons who are shown on screen. Go check out my second channel, Clown, if you haven't seen it yet. We got big videos in the works. I'm looking forward to them. I hope you are too. I'll see you next time.